Everything down in Thingville liked Christmas a lot, but COVID, who hated all good things, did not.
COVID loathed Christmas. He loathed every season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be the bully was just idiotic. It could be perhaps he was cruel and psychotic. But really, the reason that most will recall may have been that deep down, he had no heart at all.
But whatever the reason, his heart or his sanity, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating humanity, staring down at the front lines with no hint of glee at the well-distanced workers in full PPE. For he knew everything, who was getting much wiser, was busy now buying more hand sanitizer.
"They're knitting new masks," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Christmas. Practically here." His mouth spewing spit like bad plumbing. "I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming."
For tomorrow, he knew, all the same girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd lice all their toys. And then, oh the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise.
The things before eating would line up to wash. And they'd wash, and they'd wash, and they'd wash, 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 wash. They would wash 20 seconds, then rinse, splishy splosh. Which was something that COVID had long yearned to squash.
And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Everything down in Thingville, the tall and the small, would stand 6 feet separate. With Christmas bells ringing, they'd lower their face shields, and then they'd start singing.
They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more COVID thought of this sterilized thing, the more COVID thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 weeks of this year 2020, but how in the world can I spread it so many?
Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The germ got a wonderful, awful idea.
"I know just what to do." COVID coughed in his throat, and he baked some fresh cookies and wrote a quick note. And he chuckled and wheezed, "What a great COVID trick! With this note and these cookies, I'll infect Saint Nick."
All I need is to wait. And he sat by the fire, reminiscing. Oh my, what a year to transpire.
He'd grounded the airplanes, he'd shut down the borders, he'd turned everyone into toilet roll hoarders. He'd ruined the spring and the summer and fall. He'd made people fight, and then, worst of all, he'd wiped out whole families, the young and the old.
Spreading and spreading to numbers untold. No matter how hard every home tried to fight, the truth was for now, there was no end in sight. And that last deadly bit made the little jerk smirk when all of a sudden he heard a loud irk.
And in came Kris Kringle in full red and white, who crept to the cookies and took his first bite. It's sad, Father Christmas thought. He was alone, because just like that, Santa Claus caught Corona.
Unknowingly, Santa then went on his way and carried the COVID creep up to his sleigh. The germ cried, "Giddy up!" and the sled started down toward the homes where the things lay like kings in their town.
All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the things were all dreaming, sweet things without care. When they came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, COVID said at the scene. And he rode Santa's hat past the reindeer unseen.
Then they slid down the chimney without any trouble, and now they were inside the family's bubble. They rose only once for a moment or two, then COVID looked out of the fireplace flue, where N95s were all hung in a row. These masks, COVID grinned, are the first thing to go.
And then he snorted and wheezed, with a cough most unpleasant. Around the whole room, he touched every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. And he sneezed in the stockings, and then the germ on a streak went and kissed all the nutcracker dolls on the cheek.
Then he slunk to the icebox. He found the thing's feast. He spit in the pudding. He bit the roast beef. He coughed in the icebox as quick as a flash. And then that fool, he even licked the thing hash.
Then he sneezed in the napkins, the fruit bowl, the tea. And now COVID grinned, "I will sneeze on the tree."
And he sneezed on the Christmas tree, sprang the pine, when he heard a small cough and thought, that wasn't mine. He turned around fast and saw a small thing, little Cindy Wingding, who was someone's offspring.
Sicko was caught by this tiny thing daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at Corona. "Oh, Santa Claus, why? Why are you stroking our Christmas tree? Why?"
But you know that COVID was so smart and slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little child," he tried to appease, "this tree is quite sick. Did you not hear it sneeze? So I'm taking it straight to ER, my dear. They'll test it up there, and I'll bring it back here."
And his fib fooled the child. Then he sent her to sleep, and he got her a drink that he'd spit in, that creep.
And when Cindy Wingding went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and rode Santa up.
Then he did the same thing to the other things' homes, including those with pre-existing syndromes. It was dawn, all the things still abed, all the things still a snooze, while he rode Santa's sled. Rode it down Main Street, past restaurants and barbers, infecting all businesses, airports and harbors.
3,000 feet up the side of Mount Zedit, he rode with his viral load, rushing to spread it. Pooh-pooh to the things he was vilely humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming.
They're waking up now with fevers and pains, with headaches and migraines all up in their brains. Their mouths are hung open, their throats are closed off. Now these things down in Thingville will all start to cough.
Noise, COVID grinned, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the germ put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow.
Sound wasn't sick. Why, this sound sounded healthy. It couldn't be so. He'd been careful and stealthy. He stared down at Thingville. The germ popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise.
Everything down in Thingville, the tall and the small, was zooming. No physical contact at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Socially distant, it came just the same.
And the COVID, his spirit ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without kisses, it came without hugs, it came without travel and overpriced drugs. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the germ thought of something he hadn't before. Merry Christmas is less about where people are. Merry Christmas is more about love near and far.
What happened next then? Well, in Whoville they say that some science grants grew 3 times that day. And after they found an effective vaccine, the whole world received it and left quarantine.
About COVID, he cried and he cried, until he himself, COVID, finally died.